Welcome, everyone, to the Lansing Catholic Podcast. I'm Father Joe, the chaplain here.
And I'm Mr. Stolpa, Dean of Intellectual Formation.
So, what's going on this week? Well, we have OCIA here at school. So, for those who aren't familiar, that stands for the Order of Christian Initiation for Adults.
How is that different than RCIA?
Well, it used to be called RCIA, which is the Rite of Christian Initiation of Adults. But for some reason, the U.S. bishops decided to change the title by one word, and so now it's OCIA.
I don't like to criticize the bishops, Father, but this does not seem like a necessary change.
Well, that's
maybe it's order versus right, and they didn't want to deal with some sort of
In any case, it is now called OCIA, and we're happy to provide that formation here for students. And then after they do their classes here, they receive the sacraments at their respective home parishes. So we currently have 3 students that are doing that. We're happy to provide that. Last year we had, I think it was 6 total who came into the church.
But if you want to still participate in this order, not the rite, are you allowed to do so?
Yep, it's not too late. So if any students are interested, just come let me know. But you do need to get joined up with the group fairly quickly here, so let me know sooner rather than later.
And you should be a student of Lansing Catholic. We don't want people from Vermont calling. In case our listening audience extends that far.
Yes, you're right. They have to be a student here at Lansing Catholic. Let's see, what else is going on? We've also got the bishop coming on Friday, November 1st. So that is a holy day of obligation. It's the solemnity of All Saints Day. And the bishop's coming for that Mass. So he will do Q&A with the seniors after Mass. So if any seniors,
goes well.
If seniors are listening, be sure to get your questions ready. The bishop's great. He's really good at those kind of settings. He gets all kinds of questions, so don't be afraid to ask. Ask whatever you want. I'm sure he'll be happy to take your questions.
Father, do you ever play softball?
No.
Okay.
Well, I have in my life.
I'm gonna give you a softball toss here.
Okay.
I thought this was All Souls Day, Father.
No. So this.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
It's easy to mix these 2 things up. So November 1st is All Saints Day.
Okay.
Where we celebrate all the holy men and women who are in heaven, whether they're acknowledged, officially by the church or not. November 2nd is All Souls Day, which is a day in which we remember those who have passed away and those who may be in need of our prayers because they're still undergoing purification in purgatory before they're welcomed into heaven. So All Souls Day is on the 2nd, and actually the entire month of November is dedicated to prayers for the dead. So it's a beautiful tradition in our faith.
Here goes my dumb question, Father. Let's say that I pray for somebody on November 2nd.
Yes.
But it turns out that they're not in purgatory anymore. They've already made it to heaven.
Yes.
Is that okay? Or what are my prayers just wasted here?
No, I don't think there's an official teaching of the church on something that specific, but the way I see it is we send our prayers up to heaven, to purgatory, and God only knows where these souls actually are, and if they don't need them, I'm sure they all get distributed however God needs them, and so, it all works out for the better. But it's certainly not a waste of time.
Now I do have a serious question, though. The saints, though, aside from the ones that we know through miracles and things like this, we, generally speaking, would not know until we are ourselves in heaven if these people were definitely saints. Mm-hmm. And if you're in heaven, are you a saint?
Yeah.
So you might never know somebody's in heaven until you get there yourself.
Correct.
Oh, that's just kind of a theological thing.
Yep.
But that's good.
And I think it is something that can be, for example, I have a brother who passed away back in 2012, and so I pray for him, every year on the anniversary of his death and on his birthday, I offer masses for him. And I sort of wonder, at some point, maybe he's already in heaven, or maybe he will be eventually. Will I ever really know that? I don't know. I don't have I've never had a vision of him or anything like that, so it's hard to say. But for now, I just keep praying for him, and even if he doesn't actually need it, I'm sure those prayers are going wherever they are needed. So I just keep praying.
Well, all these other things aside, Father, we also have the costume concert here on Wednesday. And that's where all the kids come and the band plays and the kids can go trick-or-treating.
Are you going to dress up?
So that's coming to my next question here, Father. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to all right, Father, here we go. Did you dress up for Halloween trick-or-treating when you were at the homeschool?
So,
Or was there really no?
I like how you say at the homeschool
Yeah,
like it's a
or-
place.
Because obviously you lived in a barn, so you couldn't.
Okay.
And to go, and when we know the roads in Michigan, they're a mile apart, so you couldn't really go trick or treating, could you?
So I grew up on a dirt road in
Sure.
Superior Township, which is between Ann Arbor and Ypsi.
Pretty much what I said.
And it was not a barn.
Oh, sorry.
It was a house that my oldest brother built. And
that's pretty cool.
There wasn't any good trick-or-treating out there because we were off in the boonies. So we would usually drive into downtown Ann Arbor. There were a couple of neighborhoods we knew of that were good. I actually knew this one is my sister-in-law's mother, so not related to me, but her neighborhood was the best because they would give you like full-size or king-sized candy bars. So one time I went there, and that was definitely the biggest candy haul was that year.
Did you use a pillowcase?
Yep.
Yep.
Classic pillowcase. Because, those little buckets, they're not big enough.
No. And my kids like to bring the buckets around, and then we keep the pillowcase, and we just, because they look so cute and adorable with the buckets. And once you show up at the pillowcase, it's just the magic is gone.
One year for All Saints Day, my brother was serving at Mass, and he passed out during Mass. So they I think somebody called an ambulance or something.
yeah.
And my
I've been
dad
there.
was there, and he was like, he doesn't need an ambulance. He just had a bucket of candy last night. He has no food. And that's why he passed out. So they had to make a rule.
There's peanuts, there's caramel and nougat. It's all our food groups.
So yeah, we would go trick-or-treating every year. It was a big deal. My mom never liked Halloween because she didn't like all the demon costumes and all that, but she was very creative and couldn't help herself, but she would get involved in making our costumes because that was her one rule. We could never buy a pre-made costume. You had to actually make it yourself, and she would usually help us. So we had all kinds of fun homemade costumes.
I'm waiting. There's going to be more there, Father. What was your top 3 costumes?
So I went trick-or-treating every year through when I was a little kid and then all the way through high school. I think the first
You were a high school trick-or-treater?
The first year I did not go was when I was in college. And I remember being kind of sad. I was like, I'm too old for this now. I can't go trick-or-treating. So
you can. That's why they have the masks.
One year I dressed as Captain Crunch. So I got a
fabulous.
I got a suit jacket from Value World and spray painted it blue so that it was the blue color. And then I made the funny looking hat.
That's a pretty good one.
I was Danger Mouse one year.
I don't know what that is, but it sounds amazing.
So that's like a cartoon show that's originally from Britain, but for some reason we were into that when I was a kid.
And you were able to make a Danger Mouse costume?
Yeah, I basically had to wear a white full bodysuit and put these little mouse ears on. They thought it was Mickey Mouse. I was like, no, Danger Mouse. Another year I was
can't imagine why they were confused.
Another year I was a door.
What?
So I think this is one of my more creative ones.
What, like the band, the
doors?
doors?
No, like a door, as you walk into a room, you open the door. I was one of those.
Yeah. I thought that's what you were saying, but I was really hoping that you weren't.
The way I made it is I got a piece of that 2-inch thick construction foam and cut it to the size of a door. So whatever it is, 7 feet tall and 3 feet wide. And then I attached an actual doorknob. I took it off from a closet in the house and put a doorknob on it.
Never got in that closet again the rest of your life.
And that one, people were definitely kind of... Oh, and I cut a little hole in it so my face could be in the hole, and then I would just
How many kids tried to push you over?
Or
slam you?
I don't remember that happening, but I do remember a lot of people just being like, okay, good job, I guess.
Here comes the homeschool kid, dressed as a door.
Yeah, so those were some of the best costumes over the years. There were probably other ones, but those ones come to mind. Does your family do a full family theme?
No, we've one year, the most recent one that I did, my wife dressed up as Belle from Beauty and the Beast, and I was a taco.
You weren't the Beast?
No. We were.
What's the guy?
Taco Bell, Father.
Oh, got it.
It wasn't just 2 random things put together. Oh, here's a sheep and a duck. Oh, I get it. Ha ha.
Taco Bell. That
was the most recent thing I've dressed up as. But my kids always have some weird thing. I think we have, we have Godzilla. One of them's Godzilla this year. And then Mal from the Descendants movies. And then what's Annie? Annie is, she's a cowgirl.
Classic.
Yes. That's really just what she wears every day, though. She just loves horses. So she's like, let me just put on my clothes and get some candy.
So
That's how she
Halloween
sounds.
is one of those funny days where if I just go to a grocery store or some other public place, people often think I'm in a costume.
Oh, that's
They'll be
terrible.
Like, wow, that's a great costume. And then I'm like, no, I'm an actual priest. Like, no. Wait. One time I was in Brighton and they had this Renaissance festival and I was wearing a cassock that day. I didn't plan that. It just sort of happened. So I was walking around, and there are all these people in these old-timey outfits, and this lady was like, that's a great costume, man. And I was like, no, I'm actually a priest in town. No, you're not.
You could have started brewing some mead, and you would have been one of those old monks who brew the mead and the beer and the ale.
I don't think that lady ever actually believed me in that conversation. So if she's listening now you know I actually am a real, legit priest.
I hope she's listening. There's so many great things we could talk about there.
All right.
And if anybody else has seen Father at the stores and want to call in and talk about what they've thought of him, please call in our show.
Any other announcements for this week, or is that?
Nah.
much
The pumpkin carving at Roshinka.
What day is that?
That's Wednesday as well, because then the little kids are supposed to judge it.
Oh, that's
So,
right.
of course, they always judge the ones they really like. Inside Out, the Minions, they love that stuff.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift.
Definitely a winner. And the staff gets to judge them, too.
Do they?
Yeah,
well,
usually go around
Staff's
and-
very judgy anyway.
Well, for our interview today, we have some alumni from the class of 1979. So with me here in the studio is Mrs. Beth Fox, now Mrs. Beth Sampson. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you.
And also Mr. Tim Zippel. Thanks for coming, Tim.
You're welcome.
So we just did a tour here of Lansing Catholic, given by me, the chaplain. So what are your first impressions of the building after coming back here after all these years?
It's beautiful. The chapel is gorgeous and so much more friendly than when we came here. It was so small we couldn't really use it. So I love that chapel.
And I'm impressed with the sports fields because they were just blank fields out there. There was no tennis courts, baseball. There was a field that we shared with Eastern and the track that we shared with Eastern. But so it's beautiful, all the additions and improvements.
And one of you was saying when we were out there that they used to call it the Rock Field or Rock Stadium, not because of Rocky, but because there were just lots of rocks in the ground. So hopefully it's a little better than that now.
Oh, a bunch better.
How about you tell us a little bit about what you do now and all that is, in a few brief sentences, what you've been up to since graduating?
Well, I've made some changes throughout my life. When I graduated from Michigan State, I worked for General Motors at Buick for several years. And when I was expecting my second baby, I decided to stay home and be home with my kids. So while they were at school, I would substitute teach. And eventually, I changed careers. I went back to college, became a teacher, and I taught for 1 year in Heartland schools and 8 years in Catholic schools, St. Patrick Church in Brighton and Our Lady of the Lakes in Waterford.
And how about you, Tim?
I went to Michigan State undergrad and wrestled there and then transferred to Oakland and eventually got my physical therapy degree. So I was a physical therapist for 7 to 9 years and then got into teaching. So I taught a portion of a course down at Duke University when we lived in Durham, North Carolina. And then I got the bug, so I started teaching in Des Moines, Iowa at Des Moines University for 4 years. And then we moved back to Michigan and taught at Central Michigan University in their doctoral physical therapy program for 24 years.
So looking back over your life, what are some ways in which you felt like Lansing Catholic prepared you well for adulthood? You've been adulting
The
for a while
Unipack
now.
system. That must be it.
No one knows about the Unipack system, but definitely for me, it was teaching in Catholic schools. It was always a dream to be a teacher, but then, I don't know, somewhere along the way, I took some business classes and changed my path, and I came right back to it. That was my favorite job of all.
And I never saw myself as a teacher either, but that's where I ended up my career. And I retired 3 years ago at 60 from Central Michigan. It was a good profession, as far as a teacher. Physical therapy was good for me, and taught me a lot about human nature. As far as what did LCC, back in the day we called it LCC,
Yes.
what did they contribute to it? Well, it was mental toughness to endure through hardship, keep going even though you have those nightmares about forgetting to go to class and,
Can't find my locker.
So, it was a strong foundation. And as you guys were mentioning, Michigan State would pretty much take any of us that wanted to go there
Right.
because they knew that this was an academically rigorous institution. So it was a good start, and started wrestling here and wrestled through college, and that gave me more emotional toughness. So it was a great foundation.
So if you could share one positive memory or just something you're grateful for from Lansing Catholic, what would that be?
The friendships. Our class was so small. We were friends with everybody. Everybody knew everybody. There were no lines. And I was very shy. I've kind of come out of that shell. Everybody was together, a team working towards the same goals. And people that I know that did not go to Catholic schools or smaller schools like ours don't understand it.
Right.
So,
I think it's something it's easy to take for granted. Simply having a smaller group in your grade makes a huge difference. To be able to know everybody, it's really
Right.
nice. You're not just a number, another random kid in the halls.
right.
I was in choir, madrigals, all the plays. I was AV technician in grade school at St. Gerard, so I'd run films for the classroom. So that kind of leadership opportunities and being an altar boy, all those things led to having the confidence to stand up in front of a bunch of people and talk.
I agree 100%. In speech classes with Mrs. Clarkson and, like you say, the plays, I was a class officer, which was really difficult for me, being as shy as I was. But you were encouraged to push yourself and try to improve in areas where maybe you needed a little improvement.
So if you came across someone who maybe was thinking about where to go to high school, or their parents, and you had to make a pitch for why they should go to Lansing Catholic, what would you say?
It's a good place to start, and the teachers are supportive of the students, and that's where you really have an impact, is your kids have the confidence to go on to college or to jobs and make something of themselves and be a good representative for not just the school, the faith, their parents, the community.
Right. And again, I would like to stress the not being a number. You're somebody here, and that does give you confidence for your future. And you build your faith with each other and learn how to be good people.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to do this little interview. I'm sure our listeners will enjoy it. What are your plans for the rest of your reunion? Anything fun going on tonight? You mentioned
I'm going to go set up
Is
at
that
3 at the
bowling?
Royal Scott. It's a bowling alley, but there are conference rooms upstairs, so we're having the reunion there, and so we have to go set up for that, and then the reunion after
Their
that.
party, yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually a golf course, too. So
Yes,
I grew
all
up
those
like
things.
a mile from there. So I used to ride my bike there.
I know,
So-
yeah.
Yeah, it's close to St. Gerard, which is where I live now, so
Yes.
I drive past it. Sometimes that parking lot is jam-packed, so I'm like, God, something's going on. Maybe it's another reunion some other time.
I used to ride my bike to Phil Mueller's house out in Grand Ledge on Saginaw Street. Can you imagine that?
That's a long ride.
Yeah, that
It's
is
a long ride, but it was safe back then,
Was it as big of a road then as it is now? Okay.
No.
So,
like I remember the Meyer and the mall being built,
Oh, yeah.
Lansing Mall being built. I remember.
So every day I drive to and from Lansing Catholic, mostly on Saginaw Highway. So Father Mark Martin, the priest I live with, he has a nickname for it. He calls it the Nasty Gnaw.
Oh,
And we've joked about keeping a journal of all the just bizarre things that we've seen on that road. And it's only been a couple of years, but there's already like 4 or 5 entries that I could have put there. And you never know what you're going to find on the Nasty Gnaw on the way to school.
yeah, yeah. That was one thing. It was a little drive to get there for us, but my parents thought it was important.
Well, enjoy your reunion. Thanks again for taking the time for this.
Thank you for the tour.
Yeah.
Thank you, Father Joe. Appreciate
And
it.
maybe we'll see you around in these hallways again some other time.
Yes.
Sure hope so.
All right, folks, that's all we got. So
Wow, those were some stories, Father. I tell you.
thanks for tuning in. Be sure to listen in next week for all the latest at Lansing Catholic. I'm Father Joe.
And I'm Mr. Stolpa.
We'll see you next time.
Happy Halloween.